Hello and welcome to another episode of The Standings, where we review the sports standings except for sitting. I'm Daniel and joined by Morgan today. By the time we saw the last episode, my Rockets have lost since then, so this is a tragic episode to come upon and be a part of. I am absolutely devastated, but how are you doing today?
You know, I think today's a great day, and it's our last episode for the semester.
It is. It has to be good, and we're going to make it good. We're going to move right into Pacers-Cavs. The Pacers have taken a 2-0 lead on the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've won both home games. They're up 2-0 in the series. They have absolute control. There's been injuries to Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter that have put the Cavs at a disadvantage. Are the Cavaliers in trouble?
So, I saw this coming. In last episode, I was like, you need to pay attention to this Pacers-Cavs matchup because the Pacers have been here before and the Cavs are a little bit shaky. Yes, the Cavs have kind of been in the playoffs before, but not with this much pressure on them as a top seed here. So, yeah, the Cavs are in a bit of a pickle, if you will. And like you said, with these key players being out, Evan Mobley, one of the best players for them, and Darius Garland and DeAndre Hunter, they're not playing with these injuries. So it's going to be hard for the Cavs to really boost up to the caliber that they need to be, especially when they're fully relying on Donovan Mitchell, who cannot carry this team all the way through this series. So this is just a really tough matchup for them. But what's interesting with the Pacers and the Cavs, when you're looking at the statistics hand in hand, they have very similar matchups with their percentages for the three-pointers and their field goals. So it's really interesting to see how close they are and how competitive this series actually is. And not a lot of people are highlighting that because of just being like, oh, the Pacers beat the Cavs, the Pacers beat the Cavs. When you look deeper into the stats here, they are very, very close. It's hand in hand. But only two teams in NBA history have been able to win the series when they went 0-2 on the road. So it just does not look good for the Cavs in this situation. And the Pacers are really eager to boost through. And look at Tyrese Haliburton here with that beautiful, almost buzzer beater right at the end, winning this game for the Pacers. But you have to look, now he's injured too. So when you have injuries going on in this whole series among both teams, what's really going to be the outcome here? But I still see the Pacers taking this.
Let's talk about another Pacers statistic. They have won their last 2 out of 3 when they've been down 7 with 50 seconds to go. This is just unheard of, and the Pacers are the best closeout team in the playoffs right now. You talking about Donovan Mitchell, how he laid it all out on the court. He really had a phenomenal game and did all he could do. And when we talked about Luka Doncic on the Lakers and how he was getting 38 after playing for so many minutes, we really said, that's not enough. Donovan Mitchell, I can't say he didn't put all his effort into this game. Yes, the Cleveland Cavaliers are in a lot of trouble. When you lose both at home, there's just no way you win this series. Now you got to win both in Indiana, and I just don't see that. Indiana's going to win one of these. They're going to be up 3-1. The series is going to be over. But can we talk about Tyrese Haliburton? Seriously, the most overrated player? No, I don't think so. He is the most underrated player in the playoffs right now, and he should be being talked about at a front level like we're talking about Jalen Brunson, like we're talking about Nikola Jokic. He's one of the most valuable players, and he does it not by putting up some big scores. He's scoring 19 in that game that we just saw. He's not doing it with the points that he scores. He's doing it through the assists and the rebounds and really the steals, getting his team back into that game and contributing as an all-around factor. Tyrese Haliburton is a guy to watch. And beyond this series, if they get out of this series very quick, let's give that hypothetical, and the Knicks really give it to Boston, and Boston appears injured. I don't know what's going on with Porzingis. This could be a very good advantage for the Pacers. We talked about it getting out of that Bucks series quickly so they could get into this Cavs series, and that it was something, and we needed to look at it. We need to look at this and say, if the Pacers are able to get out of this series in 5, in 6, even like that, and they're even with Boston, and they're more healthy than Boston headed into the Eastern Conference Finals, this Pacers team can be very scary.
I'm really intrigued by this Pacers team because these are matchups we've seen before last year with the playoffs, and the Pacers, you could tell they're really adaptive, they're really learning, and they are just playing it careful, they're playing it safe, but they know how to win, and they've been learning and adapting to these other teams really fast, and that's something I really respect about the Pacers here.
The Pacers have Pascal Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
You need to not forget that. He is a proven champion, a proven winner, and when you have Tyrese Haliburton as a rising star in this league and somebody who has had that playoff experience as a team and as a whole, you got a coach like Rick Carlisle. this team has everything to get to the finals. Do they have everything to win it? Well, we're not sure. This Western Conference is very weird. I think if it's any year for the Pacers, it has to be this year, and it has to be now.
I do agree. I think it does have to be this year, especially with all the shaky things happening in the West. We're seeing such great competition in the West, but that leaves it more open for the East right now for it to be a little bit less competitive and the Pacers to just slide through and not have a lot of people expecting it, especially since a lot of people were really banking on the Cavs going into this, and now you're seeing them fall short.
The Cavs having those injuries, there's nothing you can do about it. It's part of the sport, and we're going to have to evaluate the series as we go on, and we'll have a little bit more talk later. But let's move on. Let's talk about Warriors T-Wolves. They are in a tight series. They just had a game one in which the Warriors won. Should the T-Wolves still be the favorites? And what can we say about this Curry injury that's happening? It was labeled as a strain this morning, and he's day-to-day. There is the belief that he absolutely will not play game two, and maybe could miss 3 games in this series. That's very crucial.
So I think the Timberwolves should still remain the favorite. Yes, I know they just lost this game, but even though they lost, I mean, they just beat the Lakers and LeBron and Luka Doncic over there. They are just going to be a little bit shaky. And like Anthony Edwards said, the first issue with the first series that he played in, he was just a little bit nervous getting into it. So I'm sure his nerves are still racked up playing against this Warriors team. But when you look at the Warriors and you look at the Lakers, they are very similar. And if the Timberwolves have the ability to beat the Lakers in the way that they did, they should have no worries about the Warriors here. And with the Warriors and Steph Curry, if he is out with this injury, first off, do not play him if he's injured. That is a player you do not want to risk. He is like the face of your organization, and if you put him on the line just to play in this series, who knows what could happen to him in the future. So you want to play this as safe as possible with Steph Curry, even if that means you're losing a few games here, and you weren't even projected to win anyway. So it's important to notice that this Timberwolves team is just a little bit more superior. But the interesting thing is with this game is no team broke 100. Yes, it was 88-99, and it was close to 100 for the Warriors, but I mean, the Timberwolves really need to figure out this defense situation. 88 is not really a good number you're wanting to see in the playoffs, especially when the league has become so loose on the defense. So there's some things that you need to work out going in there.
I think that the T-Wolves, the most important aspect of this first game and what we will look at is the fact that they got out-rebounded by 10. They have Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert. Those are 2 guys that are taller than any of the Warriors that will ever be on the court. That should not happen. You should not be getting out-rebounded by 10. The Warriors had 18 offensive rebounds. So you're not even getting those defensive rebounds that are basically handed to you off the glass with having those guys that are taller than everybody else. The T-Wolves were not aggressive in this game one. They did not play like they did against the Lakers, where they were aggressive and they were playing their mismatches. There's a lot of mismatches in this series when we talk about Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert. Those are mismatches all over the court. You can't guard those guys. You have Jimmy, who is on Julius Randle, and you have Draymond basically being the best defensive player we have seen in this playoffs with Evan Mobley being injured. We really cannot count out the Warriors. They had the experience. That is something that the T-Wolves, they have been in this situation before, but with a different team. They're coming in with Julius Randle, and I just don't know what's going to happen here. I think the T-Wolves need to get it really right on the offensive side because the Warriors are going to be great defensively. When we looked at the Rockets series, and I told you that the Rockets would not have another season low ever again, and I totally jinxed it because in Game 7, the Warriors defense really handed it to that Houston Rockets team. This Warriors defense is for real. They're something that should not be messed with, and we need to really look at, is Jimmy going to be the leader for this team with Steph Curry presumably being out? Because if Jimmy is set to be the leader, I don't know if they can win this series. Because I'll stick to my guns and say that Jimmy Butler cannot lead a team if he is the first guy. He cannot win the finals. He can make the finals, because he did with the Miami Heat, but he will not win the finals. I'm not sure how to look at this team. I think the Warriors should be kind of not the favorites, but they should be kind of even with the T-Wolves right now.
I do think it should be kind of even, but I just have the Timberwolves having that slighter edge here. But one little stat that the Timberwolves are kind of missing here is threes. They only made 5 threes in the last game, and that's not something you want to see, especially when you're going against the Warriors.
Let me read you a stat. They are 12 for 76 in their last 2 games from three-point range. That is the worst percentage in a 2-game stretch ever. So How is this happening to this team? Julius Randle was just starting to get hot, and Anthony Edwards, of course, is a bona fide player that we've seen. How is this happening?
The Timberwolves are making a lot more points in the paint, but that's not something that you could do in the NBA right now. The NBA is a 3-point shooting game, and that's what's the difference between the Warriors and the Timberwolves.
The Timberwolves really did this against the Lakers. They made that high percentage shots, and that's what the Lakers couldn't do. They couldn't make their threes. They couldn't even make those high percentage shots. So, of course, this is what's bound to happen in a series, is the Timberwolves are obviously going to win. They had that game where they shot 13%. That goes along with this 12 for 76 stat. They just can't win that way, and they need to find a different way to win against this Warriors team that has a very good defense. We're going to head to a break. When we come out of the break, we're going to talk about Celtics, Knicks, and we're going to move on and talk about Nuggets, Thunder. We will be right back after this.
Hi, I'm Julia Edmonds, an anchor for Royal Studios. I'm currently behind the scenes of the show you're watching, The Standings. Check me out on Royals Weekly, where I'll tell you all the university is great in news. We cover campus events, sports, and performance music. See you there. Now back to The Standings.
Welcome back from the break. We have Cameron joining us. We're going to talk some Celtics Knicks. I'm sure you're very excited after that game.
So excited.
Let's jump right into it. So my question is, should we worry about the Boston Celtics?
Should you worry about the Boston Celtics? But I want to look at the Knicks really quick. I think there's just a little bit of hope for the Knicks, whether it be a full run against the Celtics, I don't really know. But this one game beating the Celtics is huge for the Knicks. And the Knicks beating the Celtics is probably the best thing that they'll do in this playoff series. So if they could keep this a nice competitive series, this will be such an entertaining thing to watch, because obviously everybody's banking on the Celtics right now. The Knicks were not even a thought against the Celtics, against many people, and it's just insane. But looking at the Knicks playoffs run, they just played the Pistons, and they made it evident that they cannot play a team to the Celtics caliber, because you're going back and forth with the Pistons so much that the Celtics are just going to blow you out of the water. Obviously, this is one of the Celtics' worst games that they have just ever played. It's like back in the Super Bowl when Patrick Mahomes was putting up some of the worst stats he ever had. This was the Celtics' version of the Super Bowl. They are going to come back. They are going to defend their title, and the Celtics should not be worried in this situation at all. Yes, you're playing a good team with good players, but I think from this, the Knicks will really grow into a great team for next season, but they just don't have that synergy right now to defeat the Celtics.
It is beyond embarrassing that you had 63 point attempts and you have 45 misses. It is beyond baffling. And also people are going to ignore Porzingis went out and then they started chucking stuff up. You're up 30. 26, I think it's the exact number. You're up 30 and you're chucking threes. Get mid-range points. It is hilarious that you let a 29-9 run happen in the third. How do you let this happen as defending champions? You think the Thunder or the Nuggets are going to let that slide either? You're letting the New York Knicks. This is our championship. We haven't had anything good in 70 years. We are going to celebrate and have a parade for this. Then we get to go back to your bad garden, and we're going to do it again. And there's a reason why Jalen Brunson is the clutch player of the year, because he shut you up 3 times. And also, don't even get me started on the call at the end of the game. It was the right call.
There are a lot of poor and ill-advised shots by the Boston Celtics. When you miss 45 threes, and that's a playoff record, it's something that is bound to not happen again, and I hope it will not happen again. Of course, with Porzingis going out, there's all the alarm bells going in their head, and you don't want those poor shots to go up. And if you're the coach Joe Mazzulla, I'm not sure what happened in those huddles, but you got to sit your team down and say, hey, we're the better team, we have the more talented players, and we can win this series. But this is exactly how the Knicks are going to want to play every single game. They're going to want it to come down to the wire, knowing that they have 2 of the most clutch players in the playoffs in Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a mismatch on every part of the court. He can absolutely dominate this series. Jalen Brunson is a phenomenal player, and I honestly thought he would close out that game quicker before Mikal Bridges had that steal at the end. I thought it was over. I thought the Knicks getting the ball and Jalen Brunson with the ball in his hands, he's a dangerous man. He most likely would have gotten it done, did not. The Knicks are going to want to play every game just like this. And the Boston Celtics, I don't think we have to ring our own alarm bells about them. I don't think we should worry about the Celtics, considering this game is an anomaly. I think it's a product of having rust. We saw all 4 road teams win each and every single game one. So this was just bound to happen, I guess. It was probably just meant to be. I don't think Boston plays another game like this, whereas when we look at the Nuggets and Thunder and we look at the Warriors T-Wolves, I think that these teams may be bound to getting back in this series, whereas the Celtics are absolutely going to get back in this series. They have to. I think it's going to be competitive. And another thing, the Knicks are letting Jaylen Brown shoot. They are letting him shoot. That's exactly what they want to do. That was exactly their game plan, and man, did he shoot, and man, did he shoot bad. They want this to happen every single game. It should happen every single game because Jaylen Brown is not playing to the caliber that he played last year. It's very interesting.
And if you're saying now that the Knicks are going to want to play that exact same way every single game, obviously the Celtics are going to catch up on that. This is not a stupid team they're going against. This is a smart team. They're going to adapt. They're going to overcome. They're going to see what the Knicks are doing, and they're going to try to figure it out on the court. So, obviously, this fluke game is just, it's just insane. Obviously, this is not what we're used to seeing with the Celtics, but I think when it gets worrisome for the Celtics is if the Knicks start beating them again.
I don't think it's too worrisome. I think that Boston has proven that they're the best playoff road team that I have probably ever seen in my lifetime. So going back to the Garden, I don't think it is scary. I don't think losing one in Boston is that much at all. I think that these home games really don't matter for a Boston team that proves that they can just take it away when they're on the road, and that comes down to being good at the three-point line. And missing that many threes should not happen again. So if you're on the road and you take away a game like you started to do in game one in Boston, like you said, they were up 26 in the game. They cannot let this happen again. When you're up 26, the game should be over. And it should have been over quick. I'm not sure how the Knicks got back into this. The Knicks did not have a great shooting night as well, and that's why this game was close in general. They have to be better on all sides.
It's embarrassing for them. I mean, I'm a little biased, obviously, but, like, any other team that is not the Knicks, they would be salivating at this right now. Be like, oh, your morale's down. You got spanked at home in a comeback. Like, the Wolves, I would think the Wolves probably would have beat them way worse than we did. I know we won by minuscule and barely, but they would have won in regulation.
The Knicks should have had this game all closed out. Let's move on to talk about another team and another series in the Nuggets and Thunder. This is a very interesting one. Oklahoma City seemed to have had control for just about the entire game. When we were looking at this game, it was like Oklahoma City just has the better guys and everything. And when it came down to the clutch, when it came down to having experience, the Denver Nuggets just had everything to stop them. Should we worry about the Oklahoma City Thunder going forward?
I'm not too worried about the Oklahoma City Thunder yet, but this is once again just an interesting series. So the Nuggets played like mismatch games against the Clippers, and they're worn, they are tired, and will they be able to keep it up throughout the series with the Thunder, who is already projected to win the finals? So you're going against one of the biggest names, one of the biggest teams right now, and you really have to prove yourself right here. And you can't forget, this is such a competitive moment because you have two of the top players in the NBA playing each other. You have SGA and you have Jokic. Of course, this is going to be a competitive moment between the two of them and their teams, and they are just leading these teams in an interesting way. But the Nuggets have to fix their three-point percentage because if you look, they only shot 31% for three-point percentage, and that's pretty low for the Nuggets. I know that's higher for other teams in the playoffs right now, but this is not what the Nuggets need to keep doing. They need to boost that up. They need to be better there. And they had double the turnovers. They had 18 turnovers, and the Thunder only had 9. So that's a little bit of an issue there. So the Nuggets really just are not fully where they need to be right here. But what's really interesting about this series coming up is for Game 2, the referee that they picked, Scott Foster, already tends to favor the home teams. So this is a lot of buzz going on right now saying that Scott Foster will be the one who will decide the game. It won't be the game itself, but it'll really go back into the reffing, the calls, because he likes to play out these longer games, these longer series, and favor the home teams. So this is what a lot of people are focused on right here with the Thunder. But it's just really interesting to see if these games go back and forth, you're going to see the Nuggets just get more tired just because of that series they just played against the Clippers. The interesting thing about the Nuggets, though, is because they have this interim head coach who just came on, the other teams don't really know what to expect from him. So there's just a lot going on there, and he could pull out plays that the old head coach couldn't really do. So they don't know what to expect from him yet, and that's why he could keep winning these games.
Getting to sit for a little while and losing that momentum, it's a curse and a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
The Nuggets are going into this game. You fought a 7-game series, and you're going into this like, yeah, we're gonna go punch somebody in the mouth. But the main story of this game is the foul that Oklahoma City did with like 10 seconds left. You're up 3. The analytics have said you fouled them. They only get 2 shots, and then, Denver got the ball again, and then they proceed to win in regulation. This is just a baffling decision for me. I know analytics say to do it, but you have Chet, you have Shai, you have Dort, you have pretty good defenders, and you just let it happen. I don't understand the decision behind that. It's just baffling to me.
It is very baffling. The fact that Chet can't even make his free throws at the line when he's assigned to do so, the fact that you're fouling without Jokic on the court, that's just baffling as well. You cannot make this stuff up. And it's the fact that after the game, all Thunder and players and coaches were asked, was this your game plan? Did you mean to do this, or was this unintentional? And they said this was part of their game plan, and the Thunder head coach said as well that the whole game was going according to plan, meaning that they had the control and they just lost it in the end, didn't make their free throws, and they should have made their free throws. I think they have to be better beyond this. Of course, you mentioned the Nuggets had 18 turnovers. You can't have that happen again. But the most important thing is the Nuggets have the experience in this series, and they will continue to do so, with Aaron Gordon being what many would say the best third option, but I think he's the Nuggets' second option right now. He's playing like that in the playoffs. Jamal Murray has not stepped it up. Jamal Murray had those 2 game winners in the playoffs, and now we see Aaron Gordon has 2 game winners in the playoffs. This is the kind of strategy that got them a championship, and I think it's the same formula that could get them there again. This Oklahoma City Thunder team is very talented, though. They're young, they have more depth, and I think a big thing for the Nuggets is now you have Russell Westbrook, who is proving to be one of the best players in the series so far. He can do everything on the court, and I don't know how we've seen this kind of evolution of the player, because he was not like this with his other teams. Now he's playing at such a high level. Maybe it was smart to get Russell Westbrook and have him playing at the level he is, because I just don't think any other team could do it. I don't think any other team has the chemistry that they do. Getting rid of Mike Malone, who apparently may not have liked Brody, that's probably a good move. I think the team chemistry is at an all-time high right now. I think Nikola Jokic basically being the head coach. I know Dave Edelman should get his credit, but Nikola Jokic is bossing around everybody on that bench.
The interesting thing with the Nuggets is you don't know what's happening right now, and I think that's the most exciting thing about the Nuggets. They play like this 7-person rotation roster. It's not very deep. You're looking at the Thunder, they're playing an 11-person deep rotation. So when you see these smaller rotation rosters, statistically, they are just doing better, and they're getting more even playing time amongst the players. So that's what's really important, is that they're evenly spreading their players here, but they're still having that same chemistry.
The Thunder and the Nuggets are a series that is absolutely just electrifying, and I think that this series may go out to 6 or 7, just like we're saying about every other series. It's amazing. All 4 road teams winning in Game 1 is something that we've never seen in NBA history, and I'm sure it's exciting for the fans and gets them to be watching more than they ever have before. We are going to head to a commercial break. When we come out, it is our last episode, so we have to give you our predictions for the rest of the playoffs in the NBA, in the NHL, and of course our way too early NFL predictions. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, it's Ava, an anchor for Royal Studios. I'm currently behind the scenes of the show you're watching, The Standings. Check me out on Scranton Scope, where I'll tell you the latest news in the Scranton community and how you can get involved. For events in our area and sports, you should check out the experts talk on all things pop culture. Scope has everything you're looking for. See you there. Now back to The Standings.
Welcome back from the break. We're going to talk about our NBA and NHL predictions. We have a little bit of a head start because we've seen some teams lose. But for your remaining predictions in the NBA, what does it look like?
So looking at the NBA here, next up for the next round, I have Pacers Celtics, goodbye Cavs, and then I have the Thunder and Timberwolves, even though the Nuggets and Thunder is kind of shaky right now, but that's where I'm going. And for my final, I have Celtics versus Thunder, like most of America does, and then I have Thunder in 6.
So I have the Pacers and Celtics in the Eastern Conference Final. I totally agree. And I do have the Thunder coming out and prevailing, winning this series. Then we move on to Warriors-Wolves. Tough series. I was kind of iffy with this. But I do have the Timberwolves prevailing. I'm going to stick to my guns, which it initially was the Timberwolves. Then you've got Thunder-Wolves in that Western Conference Final. Tough battle. I'm going to take the Thunder. And then on the other side, with the Pacers and the Celtics, you're going to be very surprised by this. I will take the Indiana Pacers. I love how they're playing right now. If it's any year, it is this year for the Pacers. They make the finals to just get to a Thunder team who is way more talented, way more deep on every single angle. I do think the game and the series goes out to about 6 games, but yes, I do have the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the whole thing.
So I see we both have Oklahoma City, but when you're talking about Pacers and Celtics, I was going back and forth really hard with that one because it's just so interesting. The Pacers are doing so well, and I do agree. If this is their year, if there is a year for them, this is the Pacers' year. But you have to look at the Celtics and wanting to be those remaining championships there. And Joe Mazzulla knows what he's doing. You can't count him out in this scenario. So I'm just still sticking with the Celtics, but I do think if we see the Pacers blow out the Cavs here and then see how well the Knicks can wear down the Celtics, this could be a really interesting series.
I think the Celtics, for me, it's the injury concern. It has to be because I'm just not sure what's going on with Porzingis right now. I'm not sure if Jason Tatum is fully healthy. I think an Indiana Pacers team that has not had any injury trouble whatsoever, I will take the momentum heading into everything else. And, of course, that Thunder team, so young, so talented. How could you not take them? Let's move into our NHL predictions. In the Eastern Conference, the Panthers and Leafs, who you got?
I'm taking the Panthers here. So I know they're down right now against the Leafs, but I've been really banking on the Panthers this season, and I'm really excited for them. So who do you have in this?
I do have the Panthers as well, and I know Toronto has had all of those playoff struggles in the past, and they're going to have it here. The Panthers are a better team. They're going to move on. What about Caps Canes? Who we got?
I have the Canes going on here. I know you don't really want to bank against the Caps, but I am going for the Canes in this situation. But how about you?
I think I have to take the Hurricanes here. They are the better team in this series, and Alex Ovechkin has had a very nice story, but I just don't think it keeps going here. I think it has to end. Let's move on. Oilers Knights in the Western Conference.
I have the Oilers. All the news right now has been about the Oilers. You cannot deny that they are a good team coming in here, and you can't really count them out yet.
The Oilers have to be the team that's taken in this series. I was very back and forth with this one as well, but the Knights being the more kind of depth team and the Oilers being the more talented overall team, Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are two of the most talented players in the world. They're going to lead that team to the next round where they will meet the winner of the Stars and Jets. Who we got?
I am taking the Stars. I know a lot of people are like, take the Jets, because the Jets really want to win here, but I'm taking the Stars. You cannot count out the Stars. The news cycles are just like the Stars, the Stars, the Stars. You can't take away from Dallas here.
Absolutely brutal series for both teams that advanced. They all went to 7, and this Jets team went to a double overtime against a team in the St. Louis Blues, which I really didn't think should have made the playoffs in the first place. I think the Stars handedly get rid of the Jets, who were the regular season champs. That leads us to Stars and Oilers for both of us. Who do you have?
So I have the Stars advancing against the Oilers. I was a bit back and forth on this one, but once again, I just cannot count out the Stars in this situation.
I have to take the Oilers here. I think the Oilers get back to the finals just off of their grit. I love what's going on with the Stars right now. I just don't think they have that sort of caliber of a team yet. I think the Oilers have that experience, and I don't think they will ever be out of a series. The Oilers make the Stanley Cup Finals, but on the other side, we have the Panthers and Hurricanes.
I am taking the Panthers all the way for this one. The Panthers just deserve to be in these finals right now, and I see a great transition for them going into this.
I think the Panthers fall short on this one. I love the Carolina Hurricanes this year, and they didn't have a phenomenal regular season, but they had a good enough regular season that you could have very much optimism heading into this series if it so happens. I think that they're going to take care of the Capitals in time, and I think that Panthers-Leafs series is exhausting. It goes out to about 6 or 7 games, and the Panthers end up exhausted heading into that matchup with the Hurricanes. I've got Hurricanes and Oilers in my finals. What about your finals?
So I have Stars and Panthers, so we have the opposite here.
So who do you got winning it?
I obviously seem very biased here. I do have the Panthers winning it all because the Panthers have had such a great run here. And yes, you do say that the Maple Leafs are going to exhaust them out. They will bounce back, and you need to think that Brad Marchand needs that Stanley Cup to go with him.
I think the Panthers would love that. I think they'd love to have a move like Marchand pay off in such good fashion. I just don't see it, though. I think the Panthers have been winning for so long, and of course, having the Oilers and Canes in my own finals, I think the Hurricanes have had a great season. I think this is where they fall short. I think the Edmonton Oilers are your Stanley Cup champions. What do we think about this?
So I would agree with you in your finals standpoint. I would go with the Oilers in that situation too. I have seen so much growth from the Canes, and I'm really excited for them to keep advancing in this tournament. But if it does end up, I would go with the Oilers, like you said.
We're going to have to see. I love the Stanley Cup finals and I love the Stanley Cup playoffs because it is such a gritty sport and you get to see these guys go head to head and lose teeth out there, grow their playoff beards. Everything about hockey is just great, and especially this year, there is a lot of great stories and it brings more fans in. And I've seen that on social media, kind of the talk of, well, we have more fans now, and I'm really attracted to this sport because of these tough games, especially that double overtime game with the Jets and Blues. I mean, that is just absolute cinema for anybody that is watching. You really can't take your eyes off it. You need to see what happens. And of course, the Stars going out to a Game 7 as well. We had a great round 1, and now we are going to have a great playoffs come to this following week. And of course, you're not going to get to see our predictions. I want to advertise. I'm doing my own podcast over the summer. I'm sure Morgan's doing some stuff as well. You will have those predictions, and you'll have some NFL predictions. Let's move into that, though. Our NFL predictions.
Yes.
I want to know your playoff teams, your AFC, NFC championship, your Super Bowl. What does it look like?
So I didn't do all my playoff teams. I just did some. I didn't do my wild card situation here because, like we said, way too early predictions. But I did have some teams to highlight here. So for my playoff teams, I have the Rams going in. I have the Saints. I have the Vikings. Eagles, you obviously cannot count out the Eagles this year. Same with last year. You have the Eagles going into the playoffs. The Chiefs, hesitantly, not that I want to see them in the playoffs, but once again, you cannot count them out. But I think this year is the year where you start seeing the Chiefs fall down in the playoff cycle a little bit. They are not going to be as good as they were in the past, and this is where you see the dynasty start to fall a bit. And then I have the Jags, because you're getting off of a good year from last year, and you had some good draft picks going on there too, so there's some intriguing stuff going on with the Jags. Obviously, the Ravens are such a good team going on here, and another playoff team I have are the Bills. So who are your playoff teams going in?
In the AFC, I do have the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Texans. They have made the playoffs in the past years, and they've been that Final Four team for the past 2 years that we've seen the playoffs. So I do have them as the division winners and the remaining 4 teams. My wild card teams, I was kind of iffy on my last wild card spot, but I do think the Bengals will have a bounce back year, solidifying that receiver core and having Joe Burrow at the helm. Of course, if you just get that offensive line a little right, that defense a little right, you have to be a playoff team. They're going to put up numbers, and they should be able to make this playoffs quite easily. And I also have the Broncos. I love what they did in free agency. I actually liked their draft. They got really low draft grades. I really liked what they did in the draft. I think Bohenek is set for another great year. Sean Payton is going to have another great year. In this AFC West, it's very competitive. I do have the Chargers and the Raiders with Pete Carroll just coming in. They miss out. They do have Geno Smith and Ashton Genty, but I think they lie at the bottom of this division. It's just way too competitive. And when I'm looking at the AFC Championship, I have the Bills and the Ravens in the AFC Championship. I think the Chiefs take just a tad of a step back. They lose a game like we've seen this before. Yes. They've lost a game in the playoffs that they shouldn't have. I know they have gone to 7 straight AFC championships. I understand, but it is bound to end at some point. It has to end. The spell has to be done. They can't make it, and that puts the Bills and Ravens head to head. I think that Josh Allen finally gets it done.
I also have the Bills and Ravens going head to head, and I have to agree with you. I think this year is Josh Allen's year.
Let's look at the NFC. The NFC is probably the more interesting of the bunch because we don't know what teams are actually good and what teams are actually bad. There's some proven, some not. What do you got?
So I have the Eagles coming out of the NFC here. So my Super Bowl predictions already are the Eagles and the Bills were big in the Northeast this year. And I just say, this has to be the Bills' year. If this is not the Bills' year to win a Super Bowl, then they are going to fall off and they just are not going to have a good run. I mean, if you look at Josh Allen, so many people are rooting for you. You have so many people across the country who love you and support you. But he has been on a decline since he peaked in 2020, and you're going to see him fall even shorter. So if Josh Allen does not bring home a Super Bowl for the Bills this year, it's just a donezo with the Bills.
I'm playing it safe in the NFC. I am going with the Eagles, who will win their division. I think they are a very good team. I do think they take a minor step back, but I do think they win that division. And then I'm looking at the Lions, who win the NFC North, the Bucks winning the NFC South. They are just the more talented team in that division. That division seems wide open and easy, but I think the Buccaneers have Baker Mayfield, and they have a bunch of talent that other teams don't have. Then I have the Rams winning the NFC West. I think the Rams are a contender to be a number 1 seed. I said this last year, and I was very, very wrong about the Rams. But of course, they went head-to-head with that Eagles team, and it came down to that game-winning drive. So we saw the talent of that Rams team in every single game that they played in the regular season, with that defense building up, and now the playoffs. And then my wild card teams, I had the Seahawks and Commanders, which were easy for me. Finding that last wild card spot, though, is hard in both of these conferences. I actually have the Niners sneaking in. They get a little bit above 500, and Brock Purdy has a phenomenal year, but I just don't think that the Niners story is great enough right now. I don't think they have the players that they did in the past. So I think the Niners are an easy first-round exit. I actually have the Eagles falling to the Rams in that NFC. And I have the Lions and the Rams facing off in the NFC Championship. Matthew Stafford has a phenomenal year. That defense continues to build. And who do we got in this NFC Championship?
NFC Championship, if I'm going with yours, if I'm looking at yours really quick, I like the Lions. I do like the Lions here. I'm a big Lions supporter, always have been. It's really interesting, but yeah, that's who I have to take in yours.
The Lions have to be the winner of this, and they have to make the Super Bowl. I'm actually going to go with the Rams, though. It seems like an underrated year. It seems like they're putting all their money in one bag and just saying, hey, we're going to pay you Matthew Stafford. We're going to get this receiving core right. We're going to get the O-line, the defense right. I think if it's any year for the Rams, it has to be this year. And I was wrong last year, but I just don't want to be wrong this year. It has to be the Rams, and the Rams would face the Bills in the Super Bowl. And I don't think Josh Allen gets his first one. I think the Rams come in with an upset, and we'll have to evaluate this more as free agency continues, players continue to sign with teams. We see how the draft prospects make an impact on each team. We will have to keep an eye on it. But what is kind of the one team that flies under the radar for you?
The one team that flies under the radar, when I was thinking about this last night, I was like, this is going to be such a controversial take that I'm not sure I'm ready to take it, but I'm going to take it today. I think the Jets are flying under the radar here. Such a great draft. They have a new QB. There's so much happening with the Jets. Do I think they're going to make it into the playoffs? No, but you need to keep an eye on the Jets going in here.
Justin Fields and the Jets are quite a conundrum. I don't know what's going to go on with that team. They have the young players to make a run happen, but with Justin Fields at the helm, I just don't expect anything from them. One team that flies under the radar for me is actually the Seattle Seahawks. I think they made a lot of good moves in the offseason. They stole Cooper Kupp from the Rams. This Seattle Seahawks team is set to make a run, maybe even win that division. I know I'm very confident about the Rams right now and their talents, but of course it came down to one game just last year in that division. The Seahawks may have had an easy schedule, but they could fly under the radar for a lot of people this year. We will have to keep our eyes on everything that happens in the NFL, and of course you'll have to listen to us over the summer on our own little podcast. I have to advertise mine. Mine's going to be called The Sit Down. This is the standings. It'll be called The Sit Down over the summer.
Breaking news.
And I do hope that Morgan will join me for some of our NFL, NBA, NHL coverage and everything that goes on, especially baseball. Once this starts up next semester, we will be covering baseball, all MLB playoffs. You'll have to see really what happens because this MLB season hasn't even started yet. We don't even know who's good and who's not. We'll be talking about them all next semester. You'll have to be excited for that. That is going to wrap it up for the standings.
Thank you for watching the standings.
Check out other Royal Studios content like Scranton Scope and Royals Weekly.
See you next time.